Number 10, SPORTSMASTER. Starting off with a pretty vanilla villain, Lawrence Crusher Croc was a very competitive sportsman who excelled at many sports, but he never played fair. Doing anything possible to win, he was eventually banned from playing any sport at a professional level, which for some reason led him to a life of crime. I don't know why. After a run-in with the Green Lantern, he supposedly dies, but it's revealed that he actually just faked his death, and that's when he became the SPORTSMASTER. After little success as a solo villain, Croc decided to join the Injustice Society, but after a series of crimes, he ends up in jail for a while. After serving his time, he teamed up with the Huntress and actually ended up marrying her, has a daughter, and then the three of them committed crimes together as one big happy crime family. Croc does eventually lose his life at the hands of the Human Flame following the events of Final Crisis though. With basically no superpowers other than being pretty good at sports, it's no wonder this villain has been forgotten in time. Check him out in his first appearance, All-American Comics number 85. Number 9, the Eraser. Probably the villain with the most interesting attire on this list today, Leonard Fiasco actually went to high school alongside Bruce Wayne. Due to his low grades, he actually ended up dropping out of school and turned to a life of crime as the villain Eraser. He apparently chose that name as a reminder of his constant failures during his school life, and also because he wanted to provide a special service to the criminals of Gotham City. Donning an Eraser helmet that looks exactly like the top of a pencil, and alongside his signature yellow suit, he has been seen throughout the years erasing every trace of evidence left at any crime scene, making it impossible for the police to find any clues, and he does such a good job of it that he manages to stump Batman and Robin from time to time. He is eventually caught by the dynamic duo though after they infiltrate his hideout, and not much has been seen of him since. If you're interested in his story, check him out in his first appearance in 1966, Batman number 188. Number 8, Condiment King. Now with a name like Mitchell Mayo, it makes sense that this villain's name would be the Condiment King. Once an inmate of Arkham Asylum, Mayo somehow managed to break out, but was immediately subdued by Batman and Catwoman. His dream was to one day open a restaurant on Coney Island, and he actually does achieve that, stating he's turned legit and wants nothing more than to leave his life of crime behind. However, he does later don his suit once more and does his best to wreak havoc against Batman and Nightwing. Possessing no powers whatsoever, Mayo relies heavily on his gadgets, the most prominent being his condiment guns. These guns shoot a variety of sauces including ketchup, barbecue sauce, mustard, and more. However, it's kind of useless because it doesn't shoot anything at a high enough pressure to be lethal. The best it can do is create a nasty stain and just ruin your day. Check out this villain for yourself in his first appearance in Birds of Prey Volume 1 number 37, or in his New 52 reintroduction in 2016's Batman Volume 3 number 9.
Number 7, the Walrus. Does anyone remember the Wonderland Gang, or just me? This was a gang that villains Tweedledee and Tweedledum led, composed of a collection of Wonderland-inspired characters. The Walrus became one of them. Just like many of the other members of the gang, he was pretty useless as a villain. The Walrus's real name was Mo Blum, and to fight against the heroes who would oppose his leader's criminal ways, he would fight using a tusked mask that he wore on his face. He had no superpowers to speak of, just that sweet, sweet mask that, as you can expect, was not really as effective as I'm sure he'd hoped it would be.
Number 6, Flamingo. Edward Flamingo, known professionally as the Assassin Flamingo, is truly ruthless, and I'm genuinely surprised he hasn't appeared in the media more. As an emotionless, unfeeling killer with the odd tendency to eat his victims' faces after he's killed them, Flamingo has proven to be a formidable foe as he is able to temporarily paralyze Damian Wayne, and would have killed him if it lasted longer, showing that he has no problem killing anyone whatsoever. He even nearly killed the Red Hood and would have gotten away with it if it weren't for the intervention of Dick Grayson, who had recently taken up the mantle of Batman after Bruce Wayne's death. As a master assassin, Flamingo has the know-how to use pretty much every firearm imaginable, and thanks to his iconic pink motorcycle, he is rarely caught. Described as an evil Zorro by his creator Grant Morrison, why not check him out for yourself in 2007's Batman number 666.
Number 5, Angleman. You may have forgotten about Angleman and his angler, but don't worry, we won't let you forget. Angleman has never been considered an A-list villain, likely because he is such a ridiculous name, although it does begin with an A, oddly enough. And he often fights with what looks like some kind of protractor. But his angler, as it's known, is actually a very powerful piece of equipment which can be used to manipulate space and time, although I'm sure it could also be used as a ruler or to help measure angles in a pinch. Multi-purpose. Since his introduction as Angelo Bend, a brilliant and often technologically capable criminal who sometimes dressed up as a stage magician, he has been rebooted and is now known for also being Vandal Savage's son.
Number 4, Dollhouse. As the daughter of Barton Mathis, known best as the Dollmaker, Matilda Mathis commits crimes and operates under the name Dollhouse. From a young age, she was taught how to hunt and slaughter people, and usually wore a doll face that was grafted over her own when committing these crimes. Forced to go into hiding after her father's business starts to go wrong after he kidnaps Batman, She is the only one of his children to actually end up resurfacing and to carry on the family business later on. Dollhouse picks up right where her father left off, taking Gotham's more misfortunate citizens and making money off of their organs through the black market. Like Dollmaker, Matilda turns the bodies into dolls, of which she actually keeps more than a few for her own dollhouse. Making her first appearance in 2011's Detective Comics Volume 2, Number 2. Check out her twisted upbringing for yourself and let me know in the comments below what you think.
Number 3. Honeysuckle. Honeysuckle was Poison Ivy's young protege and sidekick who appeared alongside some of the other Super Foes sidekicks in the original Super Friends in issue number 1. There, Poison Ivy was seen instructing Honeysuckle on how to climb, or more chastising her for wasting time chatting away. More speed and less talk, Honeysuckle! Honeysuckle looked pretty cute and also appears in the following issue of Super Friends, but we haven't really seen her since. It's also implied that there was some sort of competition where these youngsters auditioned to become supervillains in training. Bizarre. When I grow up, I want to be a supervillain too. Actually, that is true, I do want to be a supervillain. I would love to be Poison Ivy's protege.
Number 2. Professor Pig. Laszlo Valentine, aka Professor Pig, and that's PYG not PIG, was a former agent of Spiral driven mad by his own mind-eroding drugs. And he was an enemy of Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne during their time as Batman and Robin. Characterized as a schizophrenic, Pig's mental illness explains many of his habits, one of the most prominent being his desire to make everything perfect. Now, how does he go about accomplishing this task? Well, by unleashing Dollotrons and mind-altering substances onto Gotham City. The Dollotrons are at the center of Professor Pig's story depravity, being brainwashed people who followed his every command as though they were robots. And though they act as his loyal minions, the Dollotrons are actually very much expendable and have been replaced many, many times. Despite his mental illness, Valentine is still a formidable foe with a mastery of basic hand-to-hand combat and a high-level proficiency with a knife, since they were once an incredible surgeon able to perform complicated surgeries, once actually switching a hand with a foot. Making their first appearance alongside Flamingo in 2007's Batman number 666, check out their origin story for yourself or read their new 52 introduction in Batman Volume 2 number 1. And finally, number 1, the Phantasm. Created for the DC animated movie Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Andrea Beaumont treads that line between good and evil as the vigilante, the Phantasm. Her and Bruce were university sweethearts and actually had plans to get married one day. However, her father was a rich businessman who got involved with the wrong kind of people and ended up having to go into hiding, and eventually all that got him killed. This drove Andrea to take revenge on all those who were a member of the criminal gang who killed her father, especially Jack Napier, who ended up becoming the Clown Prince of Crime. To take her revenge on Chucky Soul, Buzz Bronski, and Sal Valestra, she dons the mantle of the Phantasm, a figure that kind of resembles the Grim Reaper, complete with a scythe that she wears over her right hand. Using her father's money to hone her skills, she returns to Gotham years later to complete her goal of killing all the mob bosses. However, she does not get the chance to kill the Joker as Batman ends up intervening. Years later, she does kind of redeem herself by not killing Terry McGinnis' parents after being hired to, but after causing so much bloodshed, I really think she's more on the evil side of things. If you want to see her story for yourself, check out Batman Mask of the Phantasm and let me know what you think.
Number 10. Mavis. Yep, just Mavis. Mavis was the villain in the third and final story featured in Wonder Woman issue 4 from the original run of the series. In issue 4, she was the former slave of the then reformed Paula von Gunther. Once freed, however, Mavis did not want to be reformed on Reform Island like the other girls. No, I'm not kidding. Reform Island is a smaller island that is part of Themyscira, later referred to as Transformation Island. Instead, Mavis plotted to get revenge on her former mistress. She kidnapped Paula's daughter Greta and attempted to persuade Paula to once again join the German World War II forces, resuming her villainous work. Fortunately, Wonder Woman rescues Gerda, apprehends Mavis, and saves the day. Number 9. Decay. Decay was a nemesis created for Wonder Woman by Phobos, Ares' son. While Wonder Woman attempted to foil Ares' schemes, Phobos saw the opportunity to win his father's favor by destroying Diana. He ventured to the Cavern of the Gorgons and, using the magical properties and matter of the Gorgon's heart, created a villain in its image, much like Diana herself had been created. He sent the fiend called Decay to Wonder Woman, and the two fought one another. While Decay proved a formidable foe, almost defeating Wonder Woman, in the end it was Diana's lasso of truth that ended the being. Due to the lasso's ties to Gaia and life, it overwhelmed Decay, who was born of death, with its life-infused energy until Decay exploded, reduced once more to the dust form from whence she came. Number 8. Professor Menace. While Professor Menace has also appeared in the DC animated universe, people might not be as familiar with him when it comes to the comics. He only appeared in a handful of issues there. He makes an appearance in the good old original run of Wonder Woman in issue 111, where he attempts to replace Wonder Woman with a robotic duplicate. Known to Diana as simply the Robot Master, he challenges her to a competition to prove that his robotic duplicate is in fact better than even she herself. Wonder Woman accepts the challenge, but the competition is rigged in the robot's favor. Defeated, she agrees, as previously decided, should she lose, to go into retirement. It is then revealed that Robot Master is actually the insidious Dr. Menace, a supervillain. Not content with simply convincing Wonder Woman to retire, he sends the robot after her. I think this is really where he messed up and made a bad choice. Wonder Woman uses an eel to short-circuit her robotic counterpart, defeating Dr. Menace. That's very resourceful, Wonder Woman, using an eel.
Number 7, we have Johnny Karaoke. The crooning Yakuza loan shark is the next on our list today. Definitely not the most fearsome of Batman foes, however, this villain is way too interesting to stay buried for too long. After all, you've got to respect any American fearsome enough to rise through the ranks of the Yakuza. Although he seems like a very happy-go-lucky kind of guy, this is all an act because once you let your guard down around him, he'll whip out his cane that doubles as a microphone and a sword and do whatever he feels is necessary to protect himself and his geisha girls. Though he hasn't really made any appearances outside of his first appearance in 2007's Batman number 660, the character Jonathan John Charisma Brown from Batman Arkham Knight is heavily influenced by him and likely an homage to the smooth-talking Elvis impersonator. Like many lesser-known Batman villains, Johnny does not possess any powers other than the ability to sing pretty well, but his connection to the Yakuza combined with his own skills makes him a fairly dangerous foe.
Number 6. Armageddon. Armageddon is actually a legacy villain, but despite the fact that there have been multiple Armageddons, it's still likely not a name that most people would be super familiar with. Originally, Armageddon fought alongside Germany during World War II on the side of the Axis. He was first introduced in the 1970s in issue 234 of the original Wonder Woman comic. Despite not having any specific superpowers, he was still considered to be a relatively strong foe, skilled in using many different types of weapons. His son and his granddaughter thereafter would also end up taking the villainous mantle of Armageddon, explaining his strength and theirs as coming from being descended from the mythical beings known as ogres. With Armageddon the third first appearing in Wonder Woman Legacy numbered issue 753 earlier this year. Number 5. Quintets. The Quintets were Harley's gang that she put together after striking out on her own, separate from the Joker. She got them all matching button-down shirts that kinda remind me of bowling shirts, to be honest, with their names embroidered on the front. And she even held auditions when putting her gang together, choosing from a few old favorites and former goons of the Jokers, as well as some new yet lovable goons. They only lasted a few issues, but the Quintets were pretty fun while they lasted, and they helped give Harley some of the confidence she was looking for in regards to starting to build her own brand and criminal empire. The original team included Buster, Louis LeBeau, Kenny and Nick's Two Bear, and Lester Wilde. Though Lester was pretty useless. He fancied himself a Joker look-alike and imagined that Harley was in love with him, but he died on the team's very first mission. He also had literally no skills. Number 4. DERINOE. Donna Troy's origins are always an interesting and kind of ever-changing story, as each DC reboot seems to revamp the origins of where the original Wonder Girl came from. During the Wonder Woman series that started in 2011, the story once again got a refresh of sorts when DERINOE was introduced. DERINOE was the lover of Hippolyta, who was turned into an old crone, drained of all her youth and beauty, and ended up deciding instead to live out her days mostly in seclusion. When she learned that Hippolyta had a child with Zeus, the baby that would one day grow up to become Wonder Woman, she set out to make a better heir for the people of Themyscira. Thus, Donna Troy was created. DERINOE helped Donna to vie for the throne, and the two almost succeeded in usurping Wonder Woman's position as inheritor. Fortunately, Wonder Woman defeated Donna and managed to sway her into becoming her ally, using the power of truth. DERINOE attempted to kill Wonder Woman for this, but was stopped by the other Amazons.
Number 3. The Ventriloquist. Since his debut in Detective Comics number 583, 3 versions of the Ventriloquist have perplexed audiences. These versions being Arnold Wesker, Peyton Riley, and New 52's Shauna Belzer, but let's focus on Wesker as he is the best known of the 3. Because of his multiple personality disorder, Wesker uses a ventriloquist dummy to commit mob-related crimes. This doll, famously named Scarface for his Al Capone-like appearance, controls Wesker and the crime business they run. If Scarface isn't present, then Wesker projects an identity onto another inanimate object, usually sock puppets or anything else that he can use as a puppet. First appearing in 1988's Detective Comics number 583, we've seen Wesker as a member of the Secret Society of Supervillains, the Black Lantern Corps, and even the Justice League of Arkham, with all the stories and battles leading up to his tragic death in 2006's Detective Comics number 818. A year after surviving Luthor's attempt to recreate the multiverse, we see the Great White Shark burst into Wesker's apartment and kill him with a single shot to the head. Man, it's such a sad way to go for such a good villain.
Number 2. DEIMOS. DEIMOS is known for being another one of the Children of Ares, separate from the previous group of 5 we just discussed. He first appeared in the original run of Wonder Woman in issue 183. He is the twin brother of Phobos who created Decay. Together these brothers attempted to battle Diana after Phobos' plan of using Decay failed. Deimos planned to poison Wonder Woman in battle with his snake-like hair, which infected those it touched with a fear-inducing toxin. In the end, however, Wonder Woman beat him by decapitating him with her often underused tiara. That thing is sharp. Number 1. Villainy Incorporated. Villainy Incorporated was a group of women who were former villains of Wonder Woman's trapped together on Transformation Island, also known as Reform Island, as we talked about before. They ended up teaming up in order to escape their dismal fate in issue number 28 of the 1942 Wonder Woman series. Together they managed to capture and overpower Wonder Woman, but as they tried to escape, Wonder Woman managed to break her bonds and recapture the rebellious prisoners. While you may recognize some of the villains on the Villainy Inc. team, not all are easily recognizable. You might know Cheetah or Dr. Poison or even Giganta, but how about Blue Snowman, Hypnotic Woman, Queen Clea, Zara, or one of my favorites, Evil S? Pretty sure Evil S was also the leader of that team. Number 10. DEX-STARR. For those not familiar with DEX-STARR, get ready because this little furball might be one of my favorite lanterns. At least my favorite Red Lantern. DEX-STARR was originally named Dexter and was just your average house cat. One day, however, his owner was brutally murdered and he himself was tossed into a bag and into a river. Dexter was of course frightened and sad, but he also found within himself a fierce rage. An anger so intense that Atrocitus felt his rage and reached out to him, offering him a place among the Red Lanterns. That day, Dexter became the ferocious space kitty known as DEX-STARR. While he has since become his own character, originally he was very much the sidekick of his beloved mentor, Atrocitus. Number 9. Hope Taya. You might be familiar with Lex Luthor's sidekicks Mercy Graves, but did you know he also had another bodyguard and sidekick as well? Her name was Hope Taya. Hope was first introduced in Adventures of Superman issue 573. When Lex became president of the United States, however, and failed to prevent an invasion, she decided to turn against him. When he realized that Hope was the leak and had told some shady stories about him to the Daily Planet, Lex Luthor had her secretly kidnapped and imprisoned. He tortured her and lobotomized her before Superman could manage to rescue her. Number 8. Black Swan. Black Swan is Yabet Turu, an alien from the alternate Earth of 1365. After being manipulated by Rabba Malal, known to her as the Great Destroyer, Black Swan set out to regrow her family, carrying with her their DNA and brain scans in order to do so. As she looked for a new world to rebuild her life on, she ended up on the Earth of Reality 616, attempting to convince others to destroy their Earths in order to avoid the disaster that was the incursion of worlds. Following the events on Battleworld and the whole rebuilding of Earth 616 and the multiverse, Black Swan found herself allied with Hela, who at the time was working with Thanos. From there she ended up joining the Black Order, which would later be reformed. Number 7. OSIRA. During the time of ancient Egypt, OSIRA arrived on planet Earth. She was an alien from another galaxy with insane telepathic powers. During her time in Egypt, she used her powers to rule over the people there, becoming their queen, with her consort becoming their king. Eventually the people of Egypt rebelled against her, sealing her up in a pyramid. Years later, during World War II, she was accidentally freed from her tomb. She attempted to use her telepathic power to bring peace and end World War II through influencing the minds of those fighting. Actually a pretty noble cause. But Wonder Woman and the Justice Society of America weren't going to let OSIRA control people, even if it was for the purpose of peace. Wonder Woman defeated OSIRA by using Starman's gravity rod to break her telepathic hold, and basically defeated her by convincing OSIRA of the importance of free will above even peace. Since her first appearance in that 2-story arc in Wonder Woman Volume 1 issue 231 and 232, OSIRA has made a few more appearances, mostly reappearing as an antagonist in Wonder Woman Giant Size issues. Number 6. Supergiant. Supergiant was one of the members of the Black Order that we did not get to see join the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and almost seemingly as part of her being cut out of being represented in the film, she also then died in the comics during the events of No Surrender. Not sure why everyone was hating on Supergiant. The issue of Avengers in which she died, Legacy number 680, was released in February of 2018, while Infinity War came out in April of 2018. She was a telepath who could easily unlock information or secrets within someone's mind. Perhaps she was simply too powerful for her own good, and that's what led to her being killed in the comics and kind of erased from existence in regards to the MCU. Still, I would like justice for Supergiant. Bring her back!
Number 5. Maxi Zeus. Chronologically, the fourth Batman villain to be committed to Arkham Asylum behind the Joker, Two-Face, and Rupert Thorne, Maximilian started out with pretty humble beginnings as a Greek history teacher. After his wife dies from unrevealed circumstances, Zeus loses his sanity and becomes a crime lord, using his intelligence and resources to rise to power in Gotham's underworld. Upon his very first murder though, he is thwarted by Batman and committed to Arkham Asylum, where he escaped from many times, one of which Batman actually let slide, as it was so he could go wish his daughter happy birthday. With each escape leading him to lose more and more of his sanity, Zeus eventually gets to a point where he joins forces with the children of Ares, Deimos, Phobos, and Eris, to help merge Gotham City with Ares' throne capital, the Areopagus. Maxie is actually killed as a result of this whole plot, and his sacrifice is what brings the return of Ares, who is thankfully stopped by Wonder Woman. Funnily enough, it's actually revealed about a year later that Maxie is alive and well and running an illegal casino that eventually gets shut down thanks to a tip from the boy Wonder, and Maxie is sent back to jail without any struggle. You've probably guessed it, but this guy doesn't have any powers either. Basically, his knowledge as a history teacher and his ability to lead got him as far as possible, which is pretty impressive if you ask me. Check him out in his first appearance in 1979's Detective Comics number 483.
Number 4. Gustav Hauptmann. Gustav Hauptmann was a scientist who originally was in Adolf Hitler and Red Skull's employ. However, he found himself kidnapped and forced to work for Dr. Doom later on in his life. Surprisingly, he actually found a lot of joy in his work as one of Doom's minions. Unfortunately, he didn't last too long. When the Fantastic Four infiltrated Doom's castle, Victor sent Gustav after them. Gustav took a flamethrower for the job, thinking it would be the best weapon against the heroic team. Dr. Doom, however, disagreed, worried for his priceless artwork which hung in the castle. In response to Gustav's poor choice, Doom killed him using a sonic device, and oddly enough actually ended up letting the FF go just immediately after that. Gustav was survived by his brother Gert, who then took his place as Doom's new mad scientist minion. I feel like that would be an awkward conversation. Your brother, I just killed him. Do you want to become my new mad scientist minion? I'd be like, no, I'm not, no, I don't want to die. Number 3. The Children of Ares. Ares has a lot of children and most of them have beef with Diana, but this group of them were specifically known as the Children of Ares, and aren't any of the main bigger ones that you might have heard of before. They are a team of children and villains created by Gail Simone and Bernard Chang, who first appeared in the 2006 run of Wonder Woman in issue 39. They were only around for a few issues but were sired by Ares, who magically impregnated Amazonian women. These children use their mind, control abilities, and manipulation skills to discredit Diana, tarnishing her reputation as a hero and as Wonder Woman. Number 2. Nasty Boys. People may remember the Marauders. It's hard not to, considering that they were the ones responsible behind the death of so many Morlocks. Poor Morlocks. And now of course the Marauders name has been redeemed by Captain Kate's new team of Marauders, who travel about working for the Hellfire Trading Company and freeing oppressed mutants around the world, helping them travel safely to the mutant nation of Krakoa. But while everyone has been talking about the Marauders on and on, Mr. Sinister decided afterward to create a new villainous sidekick gang, the Nasty Boys. Oh my. That's how I always read Sinister, by the way, in my head. I read him as like this hoity-toity, overly extravagant British man. That's my Nathaniel Essex. The Nasty Boys only lasted a few issues, but goodness, what a name and what a team. The team made their last appearance in Uncanny X-Men from 2019, not to be confused with the 2019 X-Men series. There's Uncanny X-Men and then there's X-Men. I know, it's confusing. We have X-Men 2019, Uncanny X-Men 2019, but they're separate. But the Nasty Boys were actually a product of the 90s. I mean, with a name like that, are you surprised? Number 1. Gaggy. Despite only appearing in a few issues, Gaggy quickly became a fan favorite. He first appeared in Batman issue 186 as the Joker's sidekick. Gaggy was a short entertainer and comedian that the Joker mainly kept around for, well, entertainment. However, despite how entertaining Gaggy was, he was not as useful as some of Joker's other henchmen, and ended up being replaced by Harley Quinn, who was also known for being Joker's girlfriend. Jealous of Harley, it was later revealed in Gotham City Sirens that Gaggy actually attempted to get rid of her, seeking revenge on the sidekick that had replaced him, but ultimately he failed, due to the interference of the other Sirens, Catwoman, and Poison Ivy. Gaggy's full name is Gagsworth A. Gagsworthy, and he recently reappeared once more in The Three Jokers book number 1, proving that although he may be lesser known, he has not been forgotten.